Hey, bro, be careful. Watch what you say.
I wish someone would send me shirts. What you know about
You guys are both.
Eric?
What's up now? Oh, dang. Fully decked out.
That's it. I'll be back. No.
Casey, email me your address. Send it over on WeChat and I'll
hold on. I do have something. We just came fully prepared for you today, Ben.
That's what I like to hear.
We've lost Casey. He must be running in his house. He must have some form of a Shedcrazy item that he's going to adorn himself with.
I like it. And like it'll be like one of those things you see on American Pickers where they're like, oh, it's all new in the package. Brand new Yeti coolers.
It's gonna be
in
like
the package.
Somebody buying a storage unit. That's he came through. Yes. Better.
Oh, now he's gonna sweat the whole episode just to wear my shirt.
His shirt was here in a second.
That's even better.
That's a classic find. I'd forgotten about that one. I had to dive into the Christmas gear.
Vintage.
I think I have that stashed away somewhere too.
It's a winner.
Well, folks, welcome back to another edition of the Hushliife podcast. I think we're being fairly consistent. I'd say I'm proud of our accomplishments for where we are with this podcasting thing. We've still got a long ways to go. We'll continue to try to do better. But today's episode should be fun. It's a good one. We have a very close friend. Nobody knows your last name, Ben. Everybody just knows you as Shedcrazy.
That's right. That's good enough. I'll probably change it at some point anyway.
That wouldn't be the worst idea from a branding standpoint.
Yeah, at least
just make your last name Shedcrazy.
Yeah, just go that hard for the brand.
What is the pronunciation of your last name exactly?
Dedamonte is how you pronounce it. So
what's the origin of that?
Italian.
Okay.
My great grandparents are straight off the boat Italians.
Really?
On that side. So yeah, that's where we get all of our love for all things pasta. So yeah, Dedamonte. It's a pretty strong Italian name. Mafioso even.
When people see you out like at an event, at an expo, do you get a lot of Shedcrazy?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
More Shedcrazy or more Ben?
Shedcrazy for sure. Like some people know the name, but yeah, it's like pretty much across the board.
When you're signing like somebody's hat or something, do you sign Ben or do you sign Shedcrazy?
Both usually.
Really?
Yeah, or else I'll do my name and then draw a shed so they can remember who I was. Because otherwise they're gonna be like, who's this 4th grade scribble on my hat from? Like, oh, that's me. Like, oh yeah, poorly drawn antler. It was Shedcrazy.
Ben's got such a cool story, and we're gonna dive into that today. I can vividly remember the first time we ever caught wind of some of Ben's shenanigans on Instagram. We were sitting around deer camp, and somehow we had a little bit of service. And I think it was maybe Casey was just like, have you guys seen this dude? He is freaking hilarious. Was it Eric?
Oh yeah, I'd been following Ben's like nonsense, and I was surprised that you guys hadn't seen him at that point.
That's what I remember. Like you showed us a post, and I'm like, and we like dove in, and like 20 minutes into this, I'm like, how have we not heard about this guy? Yeah, we went deep, like all the way to like first post, just watching every little video clip, and just the comedy built into every one really stood out, and just thought immediately like this dude is hilarious. Casey, who reached out to him originally? I can't remember the story exactly. I know we were headed to Colorado to do our annual like semi-live hunt. I think I was in the truck with Eric, and somehow we got a hold of you. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was something like that. Like I think I got a couple DMs maybe from you, Casey, and then I think from Eric too. And just kind of leading up, I remember Casey sent me one, and he's like, dude, you got to keep going with this thing. So I'm like, oh, okay. I was at work. I didn't have anything else to do. So I just figured keep rolling with it. But yeah, then we kind of had like, I can't remember. I started kind of poking fun at you guys one day. Well, you guys messaged me. You're like, dude, roast us. I was like, okay. So we started going back and forth on the stories, just a random day. And then it kind of turned into a phone call while you guys were driving out to do your semi-live series in Colorado. I just kind of put together a stupid story series about playing along that I was going with you guys.
That's what it was.
You guys started like You're like, who is this dude? Like, we don't even know this guy. And it's serious. I think I got like 3,000 followers on Instagram that day because it just blew up. People still talk about that. And
That's
it's pretty
hilarious.
funny.
I remember, yeah, the Derek
Chester.
Derek Chester?
Yep.
And
Yeah,
That was
that's
another
stuck.
great one.
Yeah, that still is around. People still like, I'll see it in comments and stuff every now and then.
Yeah.
So what was that story, Eric? Walk us through that one, because that was another just like super funny moment.
The Derek Chester, I don't know where you came up with that.
It was in that same back and forth when we were like we were going at each other on the stories one day. And I started calling Casey Kaysen and everything. And then I was calling you Derek Chester and all the posts. And then I was calling Brian Ryan or something, but it just stuck. That one just stuck.
I think it was, you called me the skinny guy that drinks coffee.
Oh yeah. Skinny guy.
No
Brian.
name.
Yeah. That's it. There's Casey and Eric and the skinny one. Yeah, I remember now.
Yeah, I rolled all the way back on our DM thread on Instagram, because this is where I remember it all starting. So February 21, 2015, I get a DM from Ben, which I think your username at the time was something different. Wasn't it Vendetta or?
It could have been. I can't remember. I probably changed it pretty early on.
So his first message to me back in 2015 was, "Hey, let me know when you get your firebull hunt up on YouTube. I run Utah Monster Bulls on Facebook, and I will help get the word out." So me just like literally didn't know who this was. I was like, dude, that would be awesome, and I would appreciate that a ton. I'll send you the link as soon as possible. Should be up next week. Clearly never sent the link. He's like, right on. I finally got to see him at the expo. He is an impressive bull.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we had some
fanboying.
back and forth in 2015, and then it ended. And my first response to him was August 3rd in 2016. And this is when Instagram stories came out, and Ben was just doing the funniest like short stories. So that's when I said, dude, these are cracking me up. Keep posting. And then from there we went on.
It was August 29th, 2016. I bet that's when we were up at deer camp, maybe.
That was, yeah, for sure.
He said, thanks for posting my video. I wondered why I had like 30 new followers all of a sudden.
So Ben,
yeah,
walk us through kind of like your background. But like obviously we met you early on when you're just kind of like dabbling in Instagram, kind of a lot of sketch comedy based stuff, a lot of poking fun at people in a like a kind way, not like in a super aggressive negative way. But what was your background?
So my background is poking fun at people in a super aggressive and negative way, but I think I just grew out of it a little bit. But I was just like born in Southern Utah, and I was like kind of raised around these diehard big mule deer hunters, you know, and the culture down here of hunting was just always super aggressive. Like everybody's screwing me over. Everybody's trying to kill my buck. Everybody's trying to follow me to my spot. That was like the way it was down here. And I always like hated it. Like I wanted to kill big stuff too, just like everybody else, but I couldn't stand like the culture behind hunting down here. And that's why I loved like when I got into social media, because like it gave me an outlet just to like poke fun at people. And like people used to have a lot better sense of humor on social media. Now it's like people get pretty aggressive. And I think early on, everybody kind of knew it was a big joke. And so it's funny because like all I ever wanted to do was hunt, but I had this job that I like hated, and it gave me a ton of free time. And when Instagram started happening and started rolling, like I just took it as a chance to start poking fun at people, but also posting stuff that like I was super interested in, like shed hunting and hunting stuff. And it just kind of snowballed into this thing that I never anticipated. Like I never had any plans to do this for a career. Like I never thought that it was an option. I always wanted to, like I always wanted to do it more, but it was like almost a happy accident. And a lot of it was just because of you guys and because of friends along the way who just like showed me that it could be something more than something I did at work when I was bored, you know. But you know, I just grew up wanting to hunt everything that I could, and somehow this dumb app on my phone made that happen. So this is weird.
I love this, that you said that, because I remember like there's a couple of pages out there that kind of started out similar to yours, like kind of just like poking fun at people and stuff. And then for whatever, and there were pages that like we would like laugh at and like kind of DM back and forth with, and then they just started taking themselves way too seriously. And now they just like go hardcore on everybody. But
Yeah.
you've always just kept this really light spirit about it. And, you know, a lot of the stuff you say is funny. It's true. People can laugh at it. Even like the one that I always get the biggest kick out of is the one you did about Steve Rinella and Doug Byrne.
Yeah.
I mean, we even talked to those guys about it, and they absolutely love that thing because it, you know, it's fun. It's lighthearted, and it's not like jabbing at somebody, and everybody can laugh about it.
Right. And I think that's what we're missing in a lot of cases as hunters. Like, it's totally cool to just laugh at it. Like, we all do dumb stuff. We all screw up. We all take ourselves too seriously sometimes. And like, I love to give people that outlet to be like, okay, like, yeah, I get it. I'm not like, you know, some perfect dude who never screws up. It's all right. It's all right to screw up. It's all right to have fun. It's all right to make fun of your buddies. Like, that's one of the funnest part about hunting to me, is just like jabbing at your friends and hanging out.
So when you were working full time, walk us through kind of like that transition side of, okay, I'm gonna try to go out and make something of this Instagram app. Like, it was a pretty big jump, you know, in the
Yeah.
minds of a lot of people, right? You have a family, you've got like a consistent income, and then suddenly you're trying to leave that comfort and security, even though it was something you didn't care for whatsoever. You didn't like the job, but nonetheless, it helped pay the bills.
Yeah.
To try this new thing that didn't have any proven ability to make income.
Yeah. It was, I don't know, like maybe I was too dumb to be scared of it, just because like I've always just gone into stuff head first and made it work. Um, but I think it helped a lot that like my wife and I kind of started a financial revolution a little bit before this. Before I quit my job, before I even thought about quitting my job, or before Instagram took off, we decided that we weren't going to live paycheck to paycheck anymore, whatever that took. We had a lot of debt. We owned a home, and before I married my wife, I'd built up a lot of debt just buying dumb things and like overextending myself. And as soon as we got married, we were both working full time, and we were able to kind of maintain that for a while. But once she had our first kid and quit working, then all of a sudden, like, I couldn't afford our life anymore. Couldn't afford our mortgage, couldn't afford our truck payment, car payment. Like, I had a revolving line of credit that I just bought dumb stuff with, guns, motorcycles, whatever. And I started to feel like I was just like drowning. Like, I started to feel totally burdened by debt all the time. And I wanted to get out of that. And I started to long for like the freedom of not having to answer to anybody and not having to deal with this debt. So she and I got on the same page. We decided that we were going to knock it out and get rid of it. And total, it was probably a couple $100,000 in debt. And a big chunk of that was our house. And the housing market got back to where we could sell it. So we did. We just dumped it. We pretty much sold it for what we paid for it. I think I cashed about a $2,000 check at the end of the home sale. So, I mean, if we would have held on to it, it would have made a lot of money, but it was worth it to me to just get rid of the debt. And we started just trying to knock out our debt. So part of that is we moved down and moved in with my in-laws. We lived in their basement because we could live rent free. And that's where I got the job with the school district. Started working there and just putting every penny that we had on our debt, trying to knock it all out. And we did. Like, I think between everything, we paid off like, I can't remember, 37,000 maybe in 6 months.
Wow.
Just selling everything that we could, selling all my antlers. I sold like 3/4 of my guns, just sold all my toys, my 4-wheelers, everything, and then paid everything off that we could. And we got 100% out of debt. And then that totally just opened my eyes to the possibilities. Like, when I truly realized how much money I needed to live on, then it was like, man, I can do whatever I want. So I was working as a janitor at this high school, and it gave me so much free time. And all I did is screw around on my phone. Like, I would get into work, I would do stuff for like an hour, and I would do this job that I didn't enjoy. Like, it was a fine job, it was a stable job, and then I would just sit on my phone for like 7 hours on my shift and just come up with stupid videos and drink rock stars and like get all hyped up. So, I mean, I didn't really even think of it as a possibility of a career until it started to grow, until I started hanging out with you guys and seeing what it could be, and seeing you guys, like, in my mind, I mean, you guys at the time had like 100,000 subscribers on YouTube and like 50,000 Instagram followers. And I was like, oh my gosh, you guys are huge. Like, they're freaking doing everything. They made it. I'm like, I'm seeing a little bit of traction here. Maybe I can try to do what they did. And so that put it in my head. It was just you guys. And I started talking to my wife about it, and I talked to her about it a lot over the course of about a year. And finally she told me, she's like, you either have to do it or you have to shut up about it. Like, I can't stand it anymore. So we were driving down the road and she told me that, and I called my boss right there and I put in my 2 weeks. Instagram, I think I had about 18,000 Instagram followers. I had one paid sponsor, which was Mountain Ops. They were paying me just a little bit of money. And I was like, yeah, whatever. Like, I could see the seed planted and I thought, okay, I can jump and I can go with this, even though I had no money. But I had a pretty decent amount of money in savings. We saved up a good chunk before I quit. And January 21st, 2017, pulled the plug, walked out the door and never looked back.
So when you finally pulled the plug, you had one very small source of income, certainly not enough to do much off of. What was like the initial plan for you to essentially, at least make enough to support the family? Like, what was going through your head in that situation?
So my wife and I sat down and structured it out. My wife finished her degree, so she had a degree so she could be a teacher. So she decided to start working a little bit as a teacher. She had a part-time gig at the time. And then I decided I was going to try to pick up enough antler to pay our bills. And it's not really like a realistic thing. It was a little bit more at the time, like you could find more sheds back then, but that was it. I was like, if I can go every single day and go hike for sheds, I should be able to make, my goal at the time was $100 a day. If I can make $100 a day, I can pay what's needed for our bills and we'll be able to get by. And then you add to that the little bit of income that I had, I would make a little bit of money doing shows and stuff here and there for companies. And I thought between all that, we'll be okay.
Just to go back real quick, if you guys have never seen this video, Ben actually filmed a video of his last day at work before he took on this new project of doing social media full time. It's honestly, I think I've told you this numerous times, Ben, but if I'm ever feeling like uninspired or kind of like feel like I'm in a rut, I always go back and watch that video, because to me, that's just like the pureness of taking a risk and trying to make something work. And so if you guys have never watched it, I'm going to link it down below. Make sure you go check it out. I think it's a great video. We get a lot of people ask us, like, how do we start YouTube? Like, what do we do? Like, it's a great video just to inspire you to, like, it's kind of like, to me, it almost seems like Ben's why. Like, he was in this place that he didn't want to be anymore. So he wanted to try to better his life and do something that he really was passionate about. So go watch the video. You'll appreciate it. Trust me.
Thanks, man. And I got to thank you guys too, and Eric, because the day I was quitting my job, Eric called me up. I think it was probably the first time we ever spoke on the phone. And he's like, are you really quitting your job at Shed Hunt? And I was like, yeah, dude, I'm doing it. And he's like, you have to vlog it. You have to film it. He's like, you have to film you walking out. That'll be powerful for people. And that was the first pretty much like real YouTube video I ever made, was just punching out and quitting and telling people like what it felt like. And I'm super grateful to Eric, because if he didn't call me, I wouldn't have filmed it and I wouldn't have that, because it's something that I like to look back on too.
Yeah, that was something I remember like clear as day, because when you told me you were quitting, I was like, I'm going to call him and like see what his plan is, like see like what his strategy, let's see what he's got lined up. And I was pretty surprised that your answer was basically like, dude, I don't know, like I'm going to kind of roll with it and stuff. And I think, I remember on that phone call, I just thought that would be such a powerful moment that so many people are striving for. They would love that feeling. So I was like, I just remember telling you, like, you need to film when you clock out for that last time and like really talk to the camera and vlog and like explain like the feelings you're going through, because that's something that a lot of people, they want. I mean, they would love an opportunity to do exactly what you've done. And yeah, that was a special moment, man. That is such a cool video. And when we talk, even still to this day, we bring that up quite a bit. Like, dude, remember, when you just clocked out for that very last time and you haven't looked back. And that's one thing I really appreciate about Ben's journey is, I really appreciate the fact of like getting out of debt and kind of like teeing it up financially, but also not being afraid to take that risk. And through the process even up till now, like how much you've adapted through the journey to take on side jobs, to buy antler, to go help other companies to create a little income or do some shipping for, a small company or whatever. And you've always kind of found a way to make it work. And that's one thing I really admire about you and your story.
Thanks, man.
It's I think, the four of us are super fortunate where we literally get to wake up and do something that we really love. Like, we have full control of our days. We don't have to report up through anybody. We've all been in those positions that we absolutely despised, worked in an environment that we hated, but it was just necessity to support our families in a lifestyle. And I think, to Eric's point and what Ben did, having a plan is so important if you want to have an exit strategy. And so many folks struggle to, invest the time on the front end to turn, your essentially like your plan A into action. If your plan would be you want to go do something else. We talk to so many folks that have great ideas to start their own businesses, but what they're not able to do is get to the point where they can take that risk. Right. And so many folks will often say that, man, well, I just can't leave my job right now because I really am dependent on that income. And it would just be impossible to make a transition. But I think in all stories of entrepreneurs, there's a big amount of time that leads up to that transition and that jump off stage where you really do have to take the risk. And in Ben's case, with his wife's help, you guys really got into a financial position over, potentially a year, several months, to where you could take the risk. Right. I think that's so important. If you're considering switching careers, or you're just super unhappy, you've got to prepare for the opportunity for the risk. And that sometimes gets overlooked. The preparation side of it is key, and I think we've all experienced that. Certainly we did. Building the Hush brand is, for a lot of years, it was just, how can we scrounge up enough income to get Eric's salary paid for? And hopefully one day, maybe all of us could try to do this thing full time. And over, a long period of time, we eventually put ourselves in a position. But had we not tried to have a strategy and a plan, chances are we wouldn't be doing it full time right now. And it'd still just be kind of a hobby. So kudos to you guys for, getting to a point to take the risk. The risky part, I think, is the easier part. I think the hard part is preparing for the opportunity to take the risk.
Yeah, it is. It's a long buildup. And I look at your situation, being your journey, I always thought it'd be so much harder to leave a good job. If I was making good income, if I was happy or whatever, at least with the income, I think it would have been a lot harder to pull the trigger. It's pretty easy to walk away from something that you don't really love or that's not paying you well. So I have a lot of respect for you too, man, walking away from a career that was just paying you very well. That's hard. It's harder to do, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I also think there's something to be said about what you talked about, when you started getting rid of all this dumb stuff you were buying. Because I was in this kind of the same boat. I worked at a place that paid well, but I didn't love it. It was a place that I didn't think I could work for the next 25 years. I couldn't see myself checking into that time clock every day for the next 30 years and then hopefully retiring. And so what I did was I started buying a bunch of dumb things that I thought would make it easier to show up to that place, like trailer houses, four-wheeler, new truck, whatever it might have been. And then you find yourself in this place that you're not only unhappy with your job, but now you're stuck to that job because you're having to pay for that stuff. So like Brian was saying, the hard part, I think, in your story was preparing yourself to get to that position. But I think you could probably attest to this, because I know I did. After I quit, started doing YouTube, I had to get rid of that stuff too. I realized that wasn't the stuff that made me happy. Having freedom of not having to show up to this certain place because I was, marked down on the schedule to show up. That's what really made me happy.
Sure. Yeah, 100%, man. I agree. That's been the biggest thing for me, is just that wake up in the morning and decide, this is my day. What do I want to do? Yesterday was I don't even know what day it was. Monday. And we just took the kids to the lake and hung out all day. And it's no pressure. I didn't have to ask anybody for time off to be here. And neither did my wife. We were just able to go just hang out the whole day with the kids. And I look at that that never would have happened in my past life. I never would have been able to not be at work at 3 p.m. on a Friday, And so it's cool.
I think the big key that I've realized, and I've shared with a lot of people, is you can always go get another job. You know what I mean? Once you take that leap and you follow something that you have passion behind, which, naturally you're going to work harder at something that you love. You just are. Mm-hmm. And if you have that drive and determination, you're essentially just betting on yourself. And I'd rather bet on myself than bet on, a third party company, or, potentially getting stuck with different leaders that you absolutely despise working for. And that's just what I've always kind of had in my mind when we walked away from, different corporate jobs to do this, was if it doesn't work, I can go find another job. Like,
Oh yeah.
you're not, I'm not going to end up homeless. Like, we're going to be okay.
Right.
And to me, like, that is totally worth the risk, because
100%.
you're really not out much.
No.
Did you ever, when I remember when I left the steel mill, my goal was to never have to go back to the steel mill. And so I found myself, I've had a lot of dreams, probably for the first year after quitting, where I would be at the steel mill, but I would be trying to hide from people so they didn't know I was actually there. Did you ever experience stuff like that?
Well, I had like nightmares that I woke up and I was like, this was all a dream, that like I didn't actually get to do what I want every day, and then I had to go to work. Or I've woke up in the morning, like my alarm will go off and I'll like think for a second, like, oh, I gotta go to work. And I'm like, no, I don't. And it's the best feeling ever. It's like when your alarm goes off and you realize it's Saturday and you get to sleep in some more. That's how it feels every time. You guys remember that? You guys remember when weekends mattered?
Yeah.
It's different, man. I feel so fortunate to have, like, your time is, to me, the most valuable thing on earth, right?
Yeah.
Is how you spend your time, whether you choose to do that with your family or activities that you enjoy. And if you're, tied to a job that you just really don't like, that is a significant amount of time that you're just not maximizing whatsoever. And I get it. Like, sometimes you're stuck in it, but I would just encourage, if anyone's listening or watching and you're in a position that you hate, or you work for a boss that you hate, like, there is an out. I promise you there's an out, but you got to put a plan in place together. And that plan has different time cycles. In Ben's case, it was maybe about a year or so before you were able to like hit the exit button and go. In my case, it was several years, but I promise you, if you put the plan in place, there's an opportunity for that exit strategy. And maybe it's finding a different job or a different boss that you really enjoy, and that's great. Or maybe it's starting your own business. If you've had this idea for years that you've always wanted to do, you just haven't ever done it. Make the plan to put yourself in that position. I promise you, having the time and the autonomy to live your life how you would like to live it, and you're not just kind of stuck in this, societal cog of working for some company or some person that you just don't like, you'll never regret taking a risk on yourself. I'm just so passionate about that notion.
Yeah, I totally agree. And even if you don't know where you're going, like even if you don't have a plan in place for what the next step is going to be, as long as you start like getting your stuff in order and start striving to like do something that leads you in a positive direction, you'll end up in a better place every single time. Like when I started getting out of debt and stuff, it wasn't like I want to quit my job and hunt all the time. It was just like I'm sick of feeling like I'm drowning all the time. And so just that progression was what opened the door to all of this. I had no idea what was going to be at the end of it, what the goal even was.
So in that first year, how did things kind of shape out?
It was pretty, I wouldn't say it was rough. I enjoyed it because I felt so focused and motivated, and I'd never had that before. I'd never like thrown my full effort and energy into anything work related or anything. I just like, all I could think about was, how do I make this thing go? What moves do I need to be making that can like set me up for success in the future? Who do I need to be networking with? Like, what should I, like, content should I be making? My head was just so full of that stuff. And I felt like it was go, 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 go. And it was probably like the happiest, like my wife and I have been in a long time, just because we had this common goal that we were working towards. And I just felt the progress, because in the beginning, the progress seems like it comes in leaps and bounds, because you go from like having nothing of like maybe even like an audience or a followership or income, and then you bring on a new income and it doubles the amount you're getting paid, and you're like, oh man, like that's a huge step. So it comes in leaps and bounds in the beginning, and it just felt like we were running that whole first year, just like gaining ground and gaining traction.
Well, I think it's important to note that, like, when we talk about like quitting your job or quitting our jobs to have more free time, but you're starting this new business, it's not like you have all this time now that you can go do whatever the hell you want to do. It's now time that you have to really focus. And, you know, you probably spent that first year more hours working on your brand than you probably ever did working at cleaning the floors or whatever, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Doing this is still a full-time job, if not more, because, you know, I think that a lot of people get the notion that YouTube's just like, oh, do it for a couple hours a day and it's good, and you upload your videos. It's a grind, just like anything else. But what we're trying to tell you guys is it's a grind that you're grinding for yourself. This is for you and your family, your partners, or however it might be structured. But like Ben was saying, he was working harder than he's ever worked before. And I think that's important to know, that just because you want to do YouTube doesn't mean it's just going to be this really easy thing that comes. There's a lot of hard work that goes behind it, a lot of hours spent doing a lot of different things.
Yeah. And I was gone more than ever too. Like I was on the road 5 days a week, pretty much that whole first year. Just even if I didn't have any content, anything that I wanted to go film, I would just leave and go try to find something. And I would end up just driving a few hours and shed hunting or scouting or whatever, just anything to go out and get like something fresh. So I think the motivation level that first year was just incredible. It's like higher than anything I've ever experienced. And it makes it super like exciting to keep going forward because you see success. Well, at least I did, which I realize that's kind of like not the norm. I think a lot of people in the early phases have to go through more of a struggle as far as growth goes. I've seen that with other people. So I was pretty blessed and pretty lucky to have some traction early on.
So tell me this, Ben, we get to ask this question a lot. I'm sure you do. Like, what would your maybe some tips for somebody wanting to start doing social media full time, wanting to have a YouTube channel? Like, what are some things that you noticed that first year that helped you or maybe didn't help you?
I think the most important thing that people can do is like be consistent. I think I was uploading 3 videos a week through that first year. Pretty much, well, I was trying to do pretty much a video every other day. And I noticed that just got so much just the people wanting to see what I was doing next, because there was always something fresh there for them to watch. So I think consistency is super important. But I think it's way important too that people find their niche, or maybe find like something that people are missing out on and focus on that. Like when I started, there wasn't very many people like really focused on the shed hunting thing. Like there was a couple people doing it, and there was a couple people who were good at it, but they didn't have the consistency of content. And so I kind of dove into that. And then also I feel like finding just the outlet of like joking around and trying to be funny or whatever. I thought that was really underdone, especially in the hunting space. And so for me, it was just focusing on like something that I didn't think was being done that well, and trying to make that my thing and trying to own it. So niches make riches is what they always say. And you don't have to have a million followers. You just have to own your niche. And I think that that's something a lot of people miss out on. And hunting is so broad, right? There's a million niches within hunting. And I think that if you can pick one and be that guy and own it, we've seen guys do it in archery. We've seen guys do it in every aspect of hunting. So just pick your spot.
So yeah, like obviously you launched with like the idea that shed hunting would be the niche. And I would still say to this day, like it definitely is probably your like most powerful stuff, because that's what you love the most. But what would you like the Shedcrazy brand right now? Like, what does that mean to you? What does it represent when someone comes to your channel? What can they expect? Like, what does your clothing, like kind of what's the, like, what do you think the Shedcrazy brand represents now?
I hope that it represents like having a good time in the outdoors and like a laid back approach to something that some people take very seriously. I think I started in the shed hunting thing as a niche, and I think that you have to go narrow before you go wide. So it was so much about that in the beginning for me. But now I hope that it's about a little bit more the story of like being able to do what you want and finding a way to make it happen. Also like being able to experience the hunt the way you want to experience a hunt and make it fun. And it's okay if you don't backcountry 100 miles. That's all right. I don't know. I want people to have a good time in the outdoors. And I think that hopefully the brand is just about keeping it light and having fun. And then also, doing whatever you want.
I think there's something to be said too when you're maybe taking this risk in a new industry, is what is your why? What are your motivations behind what you're trying to accomplish? And this may not necessarily translate all the time, but often, we've heard stories of different people or brands that have really come in and just tried to like capitalize financially. Like, I just want to do this to chase money. I want to try to be rich or whatever, whatever the terminology is. And I don't know. I just don't think that bodes as well if you're trying to chase like a monetary number,
Right.
when you're entering into maybe a new space or a new career opportunity. There's got to be something deeper to it. I just think there's a higher rate of churn and fizzle, is people, I can almost seems like they can sense your motivation is just purely financially, right? Like in your case, like your motivation was to just gain more control of your time.
Yeah.
And have this lifestyle where you didn't have to report into a school every day. You could, essentially work from your home or out and about shed hunting, and you didn't have those restraints of a physical location tying you down. I think, if you guys are thinking of some kind of an entrepreneurial endeavor, identify what the why is. Like, why are you wanting to do this? What is the root cause behind the move or behind the business concept? And I think that can help, kind of formulate the game plan of building the brand. Because Ben, you've done a great job of building the Shedcrazy brand over the last 4 years. And I think, the way you describe like the mission statement in a will, like the lightheartedness and whatnot, it just really resonates with so many people, because you don't take yourself serious. You're easy to, poke fun at things that are kind of funny, but nobody necessarily does it in the same style or manner that you have. And I think that's what's been so great about watching your brand grow, is like the way you've been able to build it, based kind of like off your initial why of just having more time and having more fun more than anything.
Yeah. I think that, well, thank you though. But I think that for me in the beginning, when I was sitting home and imagining what this could be like, it was never like, oh, I could be rich. It was never
Yeah.
like, oh, it was like, I can have my time to myself. I can decide. I can spend time with my kids when I want to spend time with my kids. Like I can, spend time with my wife when I need to, be home when I need to. But then also, like, I always just kind of ached for freedom. Like I always just wanted to be in charge of my own life. And that was my biggest thing. And
What were some of the jobs you did prior to working at the school?
I worked for my dad for 8 years. He made headstones. He just recently retired, did granite work. So I actually really enjoyed it because I would travel all over the Western US sometimes and install headstones. I was the installer. So I would go all over, drive a lot. And a lot of my passion for shed hunting came out of that, because I would stop while I was delivering headstones. I would take an hour and go run up a ridge, like just pull off the side of the freeway and see if I could go find an antler. I found a lot of antlers on the clock. I don't know. My whole story is probably like about abusing my position as an employee to shed hunt.
Not a great employee.
I really wasn't, man. Like I really wasn't a great employee, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed spending that much time with my dad. Like it's hard to work for your dad too, but I did that. I went to school to be a paramedic. Just as a random caveat, at some point in there, I did my basic and advanced EMT, and I was going to go to paramedic school, and basically just decided I didn't want to. Got burned out on it. Yeah, I mean, I did finish work. I was a framer for a little while. So a lot of different construction. I did lawn care. I've done a lot of stuff over the last several years, but the longest stint was definitely the headstone thing. I think I did that for 8 years. But
so the past 4 years building this brand, what's been the most challenging or frustrating component of it?
I think dealing with like the platforms like Instagram and YouTube and how they've changed over the years is frustrating, because I came in with a lot of organic growth right off the bat, and my pages would go really quickly. My YouTube was growing quickly, and Instagram and stuff, and then they just started shutting down how much of your audience you can actually reach with a post or a story. And just seeing those numbers just dwindle when they took the chronological order of Instagram away, it was so frustrating, because I felt like I would get a lot of good traction there, a lot of good engagement, good comments and stuff. And then these people who I've been engaging with for years on social media, all of a sudden they're just gone. They're not seeing posts anymore. And I felt like it really like wrecked the community that I was trying to build. So there's a lot of frustration with that for sure. To the point where I feel like they have the ability to stall you out if they want to. And that's frustrating.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've been talking about that a lot lately because, you know, obviously we're all experiencing that. But I think even more so on YouTube for us, it's just like, at first it was cool because you could just put your stuff out there and your audience would see it and find it, and new people would see it and find it. But now, like you're saying, it's like they're almost put handcuffs on us. And I don't know if it's because of hunting. I'm sure it is partly because of that. But we're definitely, I think it's time. I've always said like YouTube's the coolest job in the world, but it's not YouTube's the coolest job. Just being able to share our content's the coolest job. And so
Right.
I think we're to a point almost start like looking at other ways to do that.
Right. I think that's a good move, man. I think it's awesome because it's been a place to consume content for so long. But I want to support companies that support us too, man. I would love if we could find a platform or somewhere that we could help build the platform and bring people there, and who also has our back, you know, and cares about sharing our content. Like, hopefully that exists somewhere, but I'll probably just sit back and wait for you guys to find it. And I'll go there too.
Appreciate your honesty.
Just
I
follow.
know you'll do a good job. That's what I've been doing.
Just follow the playbook, baby.
Well,
Hey.
people underestimate the power of the playbook, man. It's a real thing. That's all I've been doing.
That's awesome. Yeah, one thing I wanted to bring up was like your lightheartedness, and a couple things that, you know, come right to my attention is your ability to take serious situations and make people laugh. Or for example, like your clothing brand, BMAC and I are both wearing a t-shirt with your face on it. And that's just kind of like, not many people can pull that off. Not many people can put a donut on the front of a t-shirt and sell out. Not many people can, you know, have a silly design on a fanny pack and sell a grip load of them. But I'm just curious, like, is there ever time where you're just like tired of being the funny guy? And like I know a different side of you, like a very serious, you know, we have very serious talks and like business and entrepreneurship. And I think there's a lot of things that people may not catch when they come to your brand or see your channels or platforms, you know, because you're a very accomplished hunter at the same time, been consistent over many years, killing bulls on open bull units and plenty of deer and plenty of species. But is there ever a time where you're just like, I'm not in the mood to be funny, to crack jokes, like, and just be more serious?
Yeah, like I think it just kind of comes with the mood. Like, I think it's easy like on social media to be the funny dude or whatever, because it's just kind of what I've always done. But like in, you know, relationships with friends and family and stuff, yeah, there is a time where it's just like, I don't feel like trying to be funny right now. And like sometimes you'll meet people and I feel like there's a little bit of pressure to like crack a joke or do something funny, but that's just like, I've always felt like that as a class clown. Like I felt like that the whole way through school, that it was my job to like entertain the class or whatever. So I don't know, like it definitely, I don't always feel like being funny. I don't always feel like cracking jokes. Like me and you, I mean, I've had, you've seen those conversations and stuff. And I think that, yeah, sometimes I get like tired of it, but it's always what I come back to because it's who I am. Like I love to make people laugh. I like to joke around. I like to be lighthearted. Like I might have a lousy day or a time where I'm sick of it, but like I'll always come back to it just because I feel like it's who I am.
Yeah, makes sense. Cause like just small talk, hanging out, for example, hanging out with Ben at deer camp. I mean, it just comes natural to you to be witty, to say funny things and comebacks. And it's almost like, how does he think so fast like that? Like, where does he come out with this? And then I'm like, man, he's trained, you know, like this is who he is. And another funny thing that we always talk about is Ben's goal years ago on social media before a lot of this ever happened was to be like the most viral liked comment on YouTube videos or whatever. And he's got some funny stories on that stuff. But if you guys follow him on social media, it typically is, no matter what post or who's posting, your post will typically always become like the most liked comment in the thread.
Yeah, I like doing that. I think for years I would go on this site called Imager and I would just try to make funny comments on the videos. And that was the first site I ever had any traction on. I think I had 100,000 followers on there before I even knew what social media was. And I just like talking crap.
No,
I
but
think it's important though, like Eric asked, you always want to be the funny guy. I think you've showed all your emotions. Like we're all human beings, right? Like you're not always just funny guy. Like I experienced one of those times with you when we were in Canada and you were crying like a little baby in a tree.
Yeah. I remember that. It was a bear cub tried to climb up my tree, and Casey shot it.
The comments on that video are some of the best comments of all time.
Oh my gosh, they were so brutal, dude. They shredded us. I'm glad they got turned off.
Yeah.
What do you think about like criticism on social media? Obviously, you're so good at coming back. Like, does the criticism or negative comments ever bother you much?
I mean, I would like to say no, but it wouldn't be true. Like they do every once in a while. One gets in there and just sticks to you a little bit. But like, I feel like I can handle criticism of me just fine. Like people criticize me, your name call me or whatever, and I can just laugh it off. It's when it's like my buddies that I care about that I get defensive, or it gets stuck up in my head. Like I find every time pretty much I've got really upset about a comment, it's never been about me. I just feel protective of other people. Like even especially like you guys and stuff, just because I know you, I know a different side of you. We spent time off camera so much that like I know what good, genuine people you are. And so when people attack, your values or you as a person, or trying to say that, just whatever dumb comment it might be, I get pretty fired up. But it's all right. It brings out the best in me. I feel like
why you just don't read the comments, man.
Dude,
that's just it. I'm out on that stuff. I just, Joe Rogan has some of the best advice when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And the more he talks about it and shares it, the more I just think he's really on to something. Nothing ever comes good out of that, reading the comments for whatever reason. Even on a great video, like lo and behold, there'll be a couple that, and it's so the human mind is funny that why do you resonate to the one or two negative framed comments versus the hundreds of positive ones? Why is that?
Yeah. I don't know, man. I've made it a rule on my videos that if I'm going to respond to a negative comment, I'll have to respond to every positive comment too. So that way it doesn't feel like it's all the negativity, because it's so easy to focus on that. It's so easy to scroll past all these people who are like, great video, I loved it. Me and my kids love watching your videos together. And then you find the one dude that like told you that you had the wrong size of tires on your truck. And you're like, man, I'm going to fight this guy. Find out where he lives. I'm going to wait outside his house. I'm going to drop this dude. Like so dumb.
I get a kick out of what happens a lot of times on social media is, for me anyways, if I read a comment that's like negative toward us, I just want to go prove those guys wrong. Like that's not the truth, like that's not who we are. But I get a kick out of trying to like swing people in the other way. Like if somebody's like coming down on us pretty hard, I love to go and DM them for my personal Instagram and just kill them with kindness is what I say. And a lot of times that's just what those people are wanting, is just want a little bit of attention.
Yeah. Yeah, I've noticed that.
Pretty wild.
Yeah, you'll get DMs like you'll get a negative comment from somebody, and I'll go to message them and I'll see like 5 DMs where they're like, hey man, I love your stuff. Great video. And it's like, maybe I missed those over the years. And then it's like, oh, they turned sour because they didn't feel like that they were getting, maybe like all they wanted was a little bit of attention or whatever.
Yeah, it happens a lot. But you're right, like human nature, man. They could have 100 comments, not one comment that's negative. It is just the one that sticks out in your head.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the reality is like we're all human. We've all certainly made mistakes. We'll certainly make more. The intent behind it though is never ill-willed. If there's a situation where we failed, or I know this goes, for anybody that we are friends with that might have some kind of a brand that they share content with, like that stuff's going to happen. But, we make a concerted effort to, not make mistakes, but that's just not realistic. And so at times, like, I think it's a double-edged sword too, because we get a chance to interact with a lot of folks before COVID, where you hear stories of people saying, hey, thank you for sharing that, because, my son or my daughter just experienced that for the first time and they wanted to quit hunting, or, like I've been through that numerous times and it really, was difficult to overcome. And so I think there's those wins that are probably more powerful than, unfortunately, maybe some of the negative critique that comes on there. It's easy to be an armchair, quarterback when you're watching anything, whether it's a sporting event or, what have you. You're constantly, able to critique the coach or the players and, second guess why would you do that in that situation. But, when you're in the moment, all you're trying to do is execute whatever it is you're trying to accomplish the best of your abilities. And if it happens to not go the way that we would have hoped, we always made a point to want to share that regardless, just because that was the reality of it. And I think for many, many years, we all grew up with outdoor television. You didn't really get a good authentic look of what hunting was like, because you basically got like a 22-minute highlight reel every single week. And so the perception is that, man, these people are just perfect. And I think now that we've been in the industry for quite some time, we know that's not the case whatsoever. That's just how they chose to portray the content that was being shared on television. And I think that's why YouTube has grown in a way that it has, because there's so many great content creators out there that are sharing a more authentic approach, a realistic approach, which includes failures, setbacks, challenges, errors, you name it. But that's very, very relatable for the majority of the people. And I think ultimately is, although it's hard to share at times, it probably serves the hunting community better.
Yeah, I agree. I think that people want authenticity instead of a polished thing, and I love the guys that do both. They present like a really fun to watch video. I think that you guys, like the last few years, especially the quality of content has stepped up so much, and then you've managed to keep like the authenticity. So I think that's why people will continue to attach themselves to your brand and what you guys do.
No doubt Logan and Martin and Matt have all elevated the final product, certainly over the years, it's fun to see kind of the evolution of even, the way content's been shared on YouTube has changed a lot in the last 5 years. When we first started, man, we were just like handheld camera, GoPro, shaky
Smash
footage.
the like button, subscribe.
Yeah. It's funny to see the evolution of that.
Yep.
So
it's been cool.
This is going to be year 5 of Shedcrazy.
Yeah. I think January 2021 was 4, so we're about there.
So year 5, what's it look like? What do you got coming down the pipe?
Man, I wish I had a good answer. I've always tried to flow, like just kind of play it by ear and see what I like. I definitely, like, as I get older and as my kids get older, I will want to focus more on the family side of hunting, because that was what brought me to it. Like I grew up hunting with my dad and my uncles and my grandpa and my brothers. Like that was always what it was for me, was a family thing. And I kind of set out on my own to do it differently. And I hunt alone a lot now, but I can see my boys getting more and more interested in it. My oldest is going to turn 7 here, and he wants a bow. He wants to shoot. Like we ordered him a bow yesterday. And I just think it's going to be so much about just helping them have a good experience in the outdoors. And hopefully over time, the whole thing transitions to something that we can do together.
I was going to say real quick, you recently started up another YouTube channel with a couple other friends. Mm-hmm. Give us a little rundown on what that looks like.
Yeah. So that channel is called Real Hunting, REL, and it's with my buddies, Mike Owens and Ben Sandel. Mike's got a big YouTube channel of his own, and Ben's just like an OG, just a killer. And we've been friends. Me and Ben have been friends for years, and we just kind of got to know Mike more recently. But we decided to start kind of a place where we could share kind of our journey and our friendship. And also the 3 of us are all dads with young kids, and kind of give people a place where they can look for that kind of hunting, bringing your kids along, bringing the family along and everything. So we're excited for that channel. We launched it and it got a pretty good jump in the beginning, and then we went right into summer, which is the hardest time to make content. But we're going to be doing a lot on that channel this fall, and I look forward to that. And it was always like, we talked about it. We're like, man, this is like our version of Hush, like we can just have the camaraderie and the friendship, and hopefully show people content that is relatable.
So if you had to had the opportunity to go on any hunt, what would be your kind of bucket list dream hunt?
It's got to be something with archery elk. Like I look at a lot of different species. That Maui hunt for axis deer looks killer. There's a lot of stuff that I would like to do, but I think like just a primo, probably like the Apache for archery elk would be like my ultimate dream hunt. Just anything where they're bugling, you can see a lot of bulls, chase a lot of bulls. But I don't know, I want to hunt everything. So Alaska would be killer. I'd love to go to Alaska. We tried to figure it out for this year, but I think the dates all got booked up. So, but
Did you always, like, when you say you want to hunt all kinds of stuff, was it always like that? Because for myself growing up, it was mule deer and elk. I really couldn't like picture outside of that because I didn't have the opportunity, the knowledge, the funds. But now with what we've been able to do, obviously it's opened a lot of doors and opportunities. And I find myself enjoying like something new in a way that I didn't think I would. I just thought I'd always want deer and elk, and that's it.
yeah, those were always what I was focused on. Definitely just being from southern Utah, like big mule deer. And then around here, elk were just like so hard to come by. Like there was always the premium units where you could go hunt big bulls if you had a tag, but killing elk around here is tough just because the over the counter stuff's so hard. So I just kind of geeked out on deer and elk growing up. But yeah, as I got older and stuff, like even I think the first trip I ever really went anywhere to hunt was going with you guys to Canada. And I was just like, man, it's such a big world out there. And there's so many things to hunt that it's definitely opened my eyes to other opportunities and places.
More serious question. Better shed hunter? Shedcrazy? Eric Chesser?
Eric for sure. I'll just give it to him.
You just gave it with no fight, man. I would have expected more out of you.
Well, I mean, should we say more entertaining shed hunter or should we say better shed hunter?
Hey, you can phrase it however you want for your argument. I'd love to hear it though.
No, I've always watched Eric crush the sheds, and like the dude's super motivated, and he like Eric's e-scouting is other level. Like his ability to look at a map and figure out where the bulls and the sheds are. I've never seen anybody that pulls it off like he does. So I'll give him props. I will follow Eric to killer elk shed spots all the time, and I'll pick up a handful. I'll eat a lot of snacks, and I'll make a funny video.
Yeah, we need to get out more. Like, it's crazy that is something that we share in common, but looking back on the years that we've known each other and how little in comparison that we've gone. I mean, we've had some great trips, but I'm always like, man, I'm surprised we don't go more often. But we both kind of have like different zones, different things we enjoy, and kind of come that March, April, like prime time where we're really just kind of doing our own thing and
yeah, for sure.
Ways, really.
Yeah, I get geeked out on Nevada or whatever.
Is it kind of that thing in the shed world, like you don't want to really take your buddies to go shed hunting to your spot? Is that kind of how it works?
Like historically, I think it's been like that a little bit. But I think that like, I don't know, me and Eric, I know he wouldn't give up a spot I took him to or whatever. So once you trust your buddies, I don't worry about it.
Yeah, like there's definitely truth to that for sure. Like you always know like a certain spot can only hold so much, like so many people. Like if I know a certain spot, I'm like, dude, that spot will be hit with like 3 of us in 2 hours. It's like, you might want to be like, well, I'll just go there myself,
Yeah.
So there's definitely some truth to that, but then it really just comes down to like timing and everyone's split up and going separate ways that time of the year. It's hard to like make a plan.
Yeah.
You have any exciting fall tags so far this year?
Yeah, it's been poverty on my side. I have a 3-season mule deer tag for the dedicated hunter program in Utah. It's going to be a good tag. It's always a good tag. This is my second year of that program, and I killed a deer last year, so I can be pretty picky. This year, I don't know that I'll dedicate a ton of time to it. I hopefully will have the 3-season over-the-counter elk tag here in Utah. And then I think we've got some Colorado 3rd season tags lined up, rifle tags. It'll be a lot of fun. And then maybe our cards will get hit this week for Coos in Arizona. That's the kind of the last holdout I have of drawing a tag. But I think I went 0 for 4 or 5 states this year in the draws, and it's just rough.
Yeah, rough. I don't know what the heck happened this year, but this is the worst year besides Brian.
Yeah,
some tags, but yeah, it's been the worst year. I mean, all non-resident tag applications, it seems like in every state we're way up for whatever.
Yeah,
COVID or whatever. But yeah, it's going to be the year of the over-the-counter stuff for sure.
Yeah, it'll be some work.
Yeah. Well, I threw out on Instagram on a story real quick that we'd be shooting a podcast with you and had people ask some questions. So I thought we'd just dive into just maybe a couple of these.
Yeah.
First one is, hey, Ben, what's your most memorable hunt?
I drew a killer elk tag in Utah when I was 15 years old. It was a tag I never should have drawn. I had 0 points, and it was a Mount Dutton rifle, a bull tag in the rut. And the most memorable thing about that hunt was that my dad took the whole thing off work, which was like never really something that we did growing up. We would hunt weekends and stuff. And we went, basically, we had 10 days to hunt over there together. We found a bull before it opened, and we watched him get shot the first day of the hunt, which was a rude awakening, right? It was a big bull too. And so we ended up switching areas and going to a new place. And the second place we went to was loaded with elk, tons and tons of bulls. And I remember passing a bull, which I never thought I would be able to do, called in a raghorn to 10 yards. And I had my rifle, and I just remember looking at him through the scope, being like, Dad, should I shoot him? And all he said is, if that's what you want to go show your friends. So I'm like, nah, I'm not shooting him. And so, yeah, the next day we got up early, and we ended up killing like a 340s type bull for my first bull. And just having the experience of him and I together and being there and having those photos forever was just something that like I value a lot.
Yeah, that's cool that you pointed out, like, the first thing that caught my attention was that your dad took off the whole hunt. Like, yeah, obviously that was special to him too. So cool story. Yeah. Next question, kind of going back to the business side of things, is how do you get started working with companies? Like, through your experience, what have you found is the best way to maybe get a partner or sponsor?
It's hard because it has to be a couple different things. You have to be making something that is valuable to them on the content side. So whatever that is, whether that's YouTube or Instagram, I mean, there needs to be a reason for them to want to work with you. And then more importantly, or equally importantly to that, is you need to get to know them. And I think the best way to do that is through events and through networking. I've been really lucky, I feel like, to get introduced to people who make decisions at big brands in a really organic and a natural way, when it wasn't even like necessarily something I was trying to do. I would go to Total Archery, or the expo, go hang out with you guys, go on a hunt, whatever it might be, and end up getting to know somebody on a personal level who was a major decision maker. And it wasn't like I went there with the intention of like, oh, if I go on this hunt, I can meet this guy and maybe I'll get a deal. But just to go hang out and spend time. I always tell people to go to Total Archery Challenges, and go talk to people that work in the booth. And if you have to, like, for a long time, I would just go and offer to work the booth, ask them if they had shows coming up that they needed help with, and do it for free and put the time in. I think that's the best way, is to just show them that you're willing to like work to have a relationship with a company. And it's underutilized. I feel like I go to a lot of these events still, and I don't see anybody there, and then there's the people in my DMs who are like, hey, how do I do it? How do I get in? It's like, well, you should have been here. You should have been at this expo. You should have been at this archery shoot. So I think people miss out on the face-to-face networking.
There's another layer to that too that I think is super important. Sometimes you get a little anxious and you kind of get ahead of yourself, right? So like approaching a company before you've actually established and built a foundation of whatever it is you're trying to do, whether that's be some kind of like a new brand, a new company, an individual influencer, whatever you want to call it. It's very important to have something built first,
right? And
then approach a company. And I think a lot of times people get that a little bit backwards. They have an idea that they're really passionate about doing, and so they'll approach companies with the idea, but there's no business. It's just simply an idea. Yeah. And in that sense, like, you need to flip those around. You need to go make the idea into a business, have some, consistency within that, and then start to approach various companies for like a partnership or something along those lines. That way there's a track record of, consistency and follow through, and the fact that, yeah, it's an actual legitimate business. And, here's how their value play stacks up to this, partner, company, sponsor, whatever you want to call it, their value. And oftentimes that gets kind of reversed from what we see.
Yeah, I do that. I handle affiliate relationships for Canvas Cutter. And I can't tell you how many emails I get that are like, we're starting a YouTube channel. We're starting this. We're going to do this. Next year, we're doing this. And for me, it's so much easier if somebody comes in there and they're like, hey, this is what I've been doing. This is my lifestyle. This is my work. I've been able to do this over the last however many years. And then it's like, oh, this guy's been consistent or whatever. And it's so much easier to invest in them.
Yeah, it's kind of like their resume. Like I've said in the past, like they're what they have to offer and built up to that point is kind of like their resume. You can look and see like, wow, you've really gained, loyal following. You've got consistent videos up for 6 months, a year, etc. So that really proves that you're on board, not only because you might get a sponsor, but because, you're doing it for another reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ben is the king of being in the right place at the right time, man. And he,
Everywhere.
he no doubt has put more time, energy, and finances to make sure he's at events, and he's kind of just at the right place at the right time. And through all those different trips you've taken, like it's definitely worked in your advantage.
Yeah, Matt, Matt Lee, our camera guy, a mutual friend of ours, he tells that same story of, the reason that he felt like he ended up getting the camera guy job for us is he just would put himself in those positions. Like, if it was working a booth or whatever it might be, but that long road led him to now being a full-time, camera guy for Hush.
Yeah, and Matt did some work with Ben and collaborated on some videos with Ben. So again, that's like obviously in front of our eyeballs. So I remember seeing Ben with Matt. Ben always talked very positively about Matt, like who he was as a person and his work. So yeah, those are like two perfect examples.
Yeah, Matt's a stud. And like the other thing I noticed a lot with Matt is he was always trying to provide value. Like whether or not he took the initiative. I would go hunting or something with him and he'd be like, "Hey man, check out this video I edited of our trip." And it'd just be like a dope, like short clip that I could share on social media or whatever. And like whenever I would hang out with him, I would come home with valuable stuff. I'm like, this kid gets it. He totally gets it.
Yeah, he's by far our best camera guy. Come say hi to Ben Logie.
Yeah, Ben was talking about hiring Matt. We snaked him.
I know I was. I thought
I want you
about
to give me an honest review because you've had some haircuts in your day.
Hey Logie.
1 to 10, where are we at here?
Ooh, that's a solid. Like you look like you could lead the Mohicans into battle. So I'm gonna say that's solid, dude. That's like a 8.7.
Rookie score.
When I went in, all I said was fast. That's what you came up with. Hi, Ben.
Hey.
Ben, a bigger question. Favorite energy drink? You've kind of got a little thing going right now.
I don't drink energy drinks.
What's the top scoring one?
Oh, that's so hard, man. I think it's definitely got to be a Monster. And I think it's going to be probably the watermelon Monster Fiesta.
And that
the Ultra Watermelon.
What's that score?
That's like a solid 9.2.
Whoa.
9.3. Yeah, it's hard. I don't go over 9 very often because anything over 9 usually is rookie scores. And then you never give a 10 because like, what are you going to do if you try something better? You can't go over 10. It's rookie.
One drink, everyone knows rules. So
That's
if there's
right.
100 energy drinks, which there's probably way more, how many of them do you think you've drinking?
Probably at least half.
Really?
Like I always go out of my way to try them. Like if I see something I never seen before at a gas station. The hard thing is I like don't drink sugar, so I'm really just like doing the sugar-free ones. And so there's a bunch of sugar ones that I haven't tried yet.
So what a funny transition. We've gone from the beginning of Shedcrazy, from Little Debbie's brownies and like that being like the center focal point of your brand at one moment. And now you've become like the energy drink scoring system. Like you're probably patenting an energy drink scoring system at this point.
Yeah.
But what's with the transition? What happened to the Little Debbie's? I'm missing those.
Quit eating sugar.
Yeah, I did. I quit sugar. So I quit sugar almost 4 years ago, which is something that most people don't know about. And it was just because I'll just say my family are genetically prone to being large people, right? My dad's a big guy. My brother's a big guy. My little brother, Rocky, was even big guy for a little bit. He's pretty skinny right now, but we all kind of fluctuate. And my dad started, I don't know, we just started worrying that he's getting older. He's a big guy. And one thing that we all decided we could do to help our health and our weight was quit sugar. And we've all been like all or nothing, right? So it started out as a bet between my dad and my brother. And they're like, to see who can go the longest without eating sugar. And after they've been going for a year, I decided I was going to hop in. So they've been going for a year longer than us on this. But we do have some breaks in there. Like once a week, you can eat sugar for 1 hour. That's the way it works. So then you just break, you know.
Yeah.
What's your go-to sugar break then?
Dude, so lately it's been rainbow sherbet with dots, the gumdrops in it. That's my go-to lately. Like I got to where though I can't eat like real rich chocolatey ice cream, makes me sick. So
Yeah,
I eat sherbet.
we were at a friend's cookout. Sugar Jay invited us over to his house, and you know, the meal was fairly clean, like fried catfish, lobster. I mean, all kinds of like really healthy food, and we kept it pretty simple. But when Jay said he's got this homemade ice cream, I see Ben whip out his phone, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" He's like, texting the family, like if any, you know, seeing if everyone wants to like a sugar break.
Is that how it works? Like you guys all have to agree?
No, so we have an hour you can use whenever you want through the week. But if you like want an extra allowance for something, you're like, I'm having a bowl of ice cream, then you can hit the text. And most of the time, everybody's cool about it.
So walk me through this. You have like a time parameter, or is it just like a calorie parameter?
No, it's a time parameter. So if you want to go ham, dude, you just go ham. But dude, I can't eat it like I used to. Like I'll make myself a huge bowl of sherbet and I'll be like, yeah, and I'll eat like 10 bites of it, dude, and I'm done, wiped out.
I remember St. George 2 years ago. We were hanging out and you had your hour, and I think you polished off a baker's dozen of crumble cookies.
Oh, dude, we went hard on those crumble cookies. Yeah, those are good. That's a good hour. It's worth it.
So it's 1 hour per week, and just you can feast on any amount of sugar possible.
Yeah, you can. I usually try to keep it chill. Like I'll just like usually use it when we're out to dinner and get dessert or something. But every once in a while, I just feel like eating junk food. So I'll take my hour and just load up on a bunch of sugar.
How many texts per week would you say on the family thread come through where people are like, hey, y'all cool if I have like an extra hour?
Most weeks, none. Like usually like maybe once every 3 weeks or something, somebody will be like, yo, it's my anniversary. Can I do something extra or whatever? So
that's cool. We're all keeping each other accountable.
Yeah. What kind of, I mean, aside from, you know, maybe the obvious, what are some things that you've noticed happen from not consuming so much sugar, just as like side observation?
I feel just like better. I feel more alert and I have more energy and stuff. The main thing is though, for me, like I'd wear boots all day and then my toes would get numb. And like lately I haven't, like since I quit that much, I haven't noticed it at all. Like no numbness or anything in my feet. And I know that's like a pre-diabetic thing. My biggest fear is getting diabetes. Like that's something that my grandma really struggled with. And that's something we were worried about with my dad. But since he has quit eating sugar, like I don't think he has any of that stuff anymore.
That's cool.
Yep. It's a weird thing.
It's so weird. Like to your point, Eric, like Little Debbie's was basically like part of your brand.
Well, I was so worried to tell people about it for a long time.
I remember. You're like people were like gifting you Little Debbie's, and you're like, man, I hope they don't get mad if I tell them like I don't eat these anymore.
Yeah, I would just like take them. They would bring them to the expo, and I would just stack them up and give them away because I didn't know.
But it was a specific Little Debbie's, right?
Cosmic brownies.
Cosmic brownies. That's right.
Yeah, which is just what happened to be in the vending machine the night I made the video. And whoever, I was forever branded, you know.
So dang funny. Eric, you got any more questions for Ben on socials?
Yeah, on the social stuff, man, like I'm curious because you definitely had a period of time where you got to be like on the outside, right? Like you saw what it was like for businesses to start on social media and gain traction, like Hush and, you know, other platforms that were starting to grow at the time. So you were on the outside. Now you're on the inside. Like what was different? Like, did you think like it was less work? Did you think it was more work? Are you finding yourself like, what did you learn through the process of kind of like what you thought it was on the outside versus now what it is?
I think that I had the misconception of it being like all fun. Like when I looked at what you guys were doing or other successful YouTubers and companies, I just thought they must just play constantly. It just feels like a vacation all the time. I don't think that I understood the dynamics that come with having a partnership either, which can be tough, man. It can be tough to be in a partnership. And so I think like looking back on it, I assumed it was a lot less work and a lot more fun. And like, it's still, I get it now, it's still fun. like it's still enjoyable. I'm still passionate about it and stuff, but the amount of work that it takes to sustain a successful business in this industry is something that I don't think most people understand. Everything from, everybody understands, I think, filming and editing and travel and stuff like that. But then the back end of it, like with all you have to do with like the designing of apparel and the figuring out partnerships and then the expenses that come with travel all the time and equipment. And I mean, there's just a lot more there. The budgeting that people don't understand, the taxes. So I think, yeah, just the amount of work that it takes to keep it successful.
Yeah. And so you're just recently dabbling in like the partnership, but Shedcrazy, really, that brand is you. Like you are the website guy, the social media guy, the upload guy, the edit guy. Like, do you find it like we got each other to lean on, during our, when we lose motivation or if we just feel like we need to uplift, like we get on a weekly phone call, we kind of get rejuvenated. What do you do to kind of keep that self-motivation and keep the momentum going?
I definitely just lean on other people. Like even if, they're not partners or whatever in a business sense, like just good friends like you guys. I can always call Eric if I'm feeling bummed out or just like unmotivated, or I'll call or text anybody. Or I think that kind of like keeps me going. My other partners in real hunting too, like it's good when you can get on a group call and get remotivated together. Like I never had that before. But I think like the downside of that too, like with partners and stuff, it's super easy to like let stuff slide because you think they'll pick up the slack. Like it's easy to not be as vigilant. Like with Shedcrazy, I felt like this is all on me, whether this sinks or fails, and that accountability made me motivated. So I don't know. I guess there's give and take with all of that stuff.
Are you I know we've had some talks, but like, and I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but are you in a position this year to bring on your brother as an employee?
Yeah, that's the plan, and I'm excited about that. I don't think from a financial standpoint it ever made sense until maybe last year, this year. But I am excited because I think that bringing him on will create even more opportunity and income, and I think that the step it will take up my content, I think it should step it up enough that that it'll be nice. I'm looking forward to having somebody, and I think he'll be the guy. Like my brother's a motivated dude. I think he'll be a good fit for the brand because I think he'll inspire and push for more consistent content, which is what I've kind of been struggling with lately. Just the the boredom of summer and also just like the motivation of stuff not doing as well on YouTube and Instagram.
It's always good so he's gonna be your camera guy.
Yeah, that and a few other things. Like he's gonna wear a few hats for sure.
Sweet. Yeah, I think it's important when you bring on especially if you've been trying to film yourself and you bring on somebody, like it gives it a whole new perspective of things. Like he's gonna see things differently than you did.
Yeah, for sure. He's gonna show me from the neck up for or something besides the neck up too. Everybody's gonna know that I got love handles.
Oh, we've never seen below the waist.
I don't have any legs actually.
Yeah, that's super exciting. Good for you, man. Super proud of all the hard work and the consistency over the years, and to be in a position to, kind of bring your brother on board and maybe free up some of his time and passions and everything else. Like that's pretty special. So
thanks.
Good for you, man.
Looking forward to it. I appreciate it.
Yeah, congrats, dude. That's a big step in your business, is being able to afford an employee.
Thanks.
That's going to the next level. But yeah, just kind of wrapping this thing up, man. I know that we kind of like showed you the playbook or whatever you want to say, but you still, so like you inspire me for sure. I go back and watch that video a couple times a year when I'm feeling burnout, and we just appreciate your friendship, man. Really do.
Appreciate it. Appreciate you guys too, man.
It's 5 years going strong, brother. Super proud of the journey, the risk, the investment in yourself, and it's just a great entrepreneurial story. And I think there's no greater time than right now in this world we're living in to go try running your own business, doing your own thing. There's so many different resources and opportunities. We've said it a number of times here, but we love sharing the playbook with different people to help them out, and just basically saying, hey, here's what worked for us. You're going to take what's worked for us, and then you're going to, cater that to what's going to make sense for your brand. And there's room for everybody. There truthfully is.
Yeah.
Hunting is a giant space. The more people that we have doing this kind of stuff, I think the greater it is for everybody that's currently doing it. And hopefully somebody listening here or watching will be inspired to make that leap, take the risk that you had in your head for all these years, the idea, the vision, the dream. Listening to Ben's story is super inspiring. So hopefully it provided a little bit of motivation for somebody out there to just say, finally, you know what? Now is the time to make it happen.
Yeah, pull the trigger and do it. And like, I hope you guys understand the impact you guys have had on this whole thing. I've looked up to Hush since I started, and we talk about the playbook and everything, and you guys definitely paved the way for me to be able to do what I do. And not only that, but you've been there for me along the way with insights, with ideas, and just with friendship when I felt like I was unmotivated or I felt like stuff wasn't going how I wanted it to go. So I hope you guys understand how big of a role that you played in this for me. And there's a story that you guys have never shared, and that I've wanted to share publicly for a long time, but I get choked up every time. I'll probably do it now, but I'll get through it anyway. So long story short, like when I was starting this thing out, I was friends with you guys, and I was headed to Colorado to go hunt with you guys. I was driving my little beat up Chevy S10, and I blew it up on the way there. Just transmission went out or whatever, and I got a rental car, drove the rest of the way to Colorado. We hunted together for the week, and at the end of the week, it was time to go home, and everybody kind of kept asking me, like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do about your truck? And I had a little money saved. I figured I'd be okay, and I didn't want to worry about it. And before I went home, these guys, you guys brought me together in the living room, and you handed me a check for enough money to buy a new truck. And I remember just crying like a baby about it. I still do when I think about it. I remember calling my wife, and she just broke down on the phone. And that was such a powerful story. And you guys never shared that on social media. You never made a big deal about it. You never posted about it or used it as an example of kindness and charity. And I just want you guys to know how much that meant to me. I've told that story to so many people behind the scenes as an example of the kind of people that you are. And I feel like more than anything, it wasn't necessarily the money. It was just the fact that I knew you guys believed in what I was trying to do and that you cared about me. And that has been one of the most motivating things that has ever happened to me in this place. So I know I thank you guys for it, but it meant the world to me, and it still does. And I love you guys. I appreciate you guys so much.
Likewise, buddy. Likewise. I love that story because I remember thinking, like, when you called and said your truck broke down, and the commitment, like, if it would have been me, I would have been like, screw it, I'm not going hunting. I'm going home to fix this thing. You went and rented a car and showed up anyways. Like, that shouldn't be, there was commitment there. But hey, man, everyone needs a little help along the way. We've had plenty of help along our way, it's part of our brand, why we do this. But yeah, like you said, man, we just believe in what you do. And like I said earlier, man, you inspire us just as much as we inspire you.
Well, thank you guys.
Yeah, that story, along with many others of blowing up your truck. Again, Ben's coming on a hunt with us where he doesn't have a tag. Like, he's coming just to help and spot and video and kind of be a part of the program and just make the experience that much better. And then looking back on some of your shed hunts where you got five flat tires, but it doesn't stop you from going. And I know there's a lot of times, like in those positions, where I'd probably get so frustrated that it would make me give up. Like, transmission blows up, screw the entire trip, right? But I think there's plenty of those examples that says a lot about who you are, that you're going to have trials and hard times and speed bumps, but like, you've just never let it stop you. So I admire that about you. That was definitely a special moment. Like, I was never in a position financially to do that kind of stuff. And with the team at Hush and where we're at, like it's really cool to be able to do that. And you've always made it feel so appreciated. And so yeah, thanks for sharing the story and kind of bringing that back to me, because that's such like a cool moment.
That was a good one, man. No doubt that was a good one. I think, you know, that's the beautiful thing about giving back is you never necessarily know what it might mean to the person you're helping, and you certainly don't expect anything in return. And I think that's the ultimate, you know, sign of paying it forward, doing good things because it's the right thing to do. And I appreciate you sharing that today. And, you know, it's been a long time ago, but that was a good one. That was a just enjoyable moment to see the reaction on your face and, you know, share that with your wife. And,
Yeah,
you know, that is just, that's the DNA of our brand, man. That's just it's part of our why. We've always been committed to giving back, and we will continue to do that for as long as we ever have this thing.
well, I think it shows, man. I don't think anybody ever like plans to be the recipient of charity. And I think that it definitely showed me the other side of how powerful it can be to be on the receiving end. You know, like I have ambitions and there's things that I want to do to help people. But I think when you see what you guys have done with your charity work in the past, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to understand the whole spectrum of what that means to people. So I just appreciate you guys. And I know that like you guys are inspiring people in a lot of ways that you probably don't understand as well, whether it's from an entrepreneurial standpoint or from a hunting standpoint or whatever it is. Like, I want you guys to know there's a lot of people out there watching that are taking good from it. And I think that's really powerful.
We're just a conduit, man. We are a conduit between people that might need some help or need their story shared, and then a really massive community of hunters that are passionate about helping. We are a conduit between the two of those, and we feel super fortunate to be in a position to do that. And we'll, again, continue to leverage that opportunity of, you know, bringing this community together, making it stronger, and continually give back. I mean, that's just, it feels good. And, you know, we're just super passionate about it.
Love it.
Well, let's wrap it up, guys. We appreciate it once again for you watching Hushliife podcast. We're shooting for one a week. So typically every Wednesday we'll put one up. And but we appreciate all your guys' support. Like Ryan was saying, it's part of our DNA to give back. But without you guys at home watching us and supporting us, we don't have that luxury. So we appreciate your guys' support over the years. If you haven't ever checked out Ben from Shedcrazy, I'll link him down below. If you watch one video of his, watch the first video I linked down there. That's a video that when he quit his job to go chase his dream full time, and it's a real powerful video. So, any last words, thoughts?
Follow me on Instagram.
Just want to follow me on Instagram. He's always got to give himself a plug.
Little plug.
He's so good at throwing that in there. All our hunts. Like, dude, what do you think of that buck? Hey guys, follow me on Instagram. Shedcrazy. Oh yeah, that was a nice buck. But yeah, just say thanks for being on the podcast. Like, I'd love to have you on again. Maybe we can dive into something more specific like shed antler hunting in the future and all that. But yeah, thanks for being on the podcast, and for everyone listening, thanks for the love and support as usual.
Thanks, guys.